Good evening, everyone. At this time, it is now 8:05 p.m. I'd like to call work session number 5 to commence. Though not necessary, I really would like for us to still do the Pledge of Allegiance, if we could.
Yes, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, thank you everyone for being here this evening, and I will immediately turn it over to staff for the work session.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Council and residents out there who are watching this, and especially those people in the K section. Tonight, we're going to conduct work session number 5, and we're going to start with the Planning and Sustainability Department, go next with IT, and then we're going to review equipment acquisition and general fund summaries, and then appendices and a wrap up. So we'll start with the Planning Department. The Department of Planning and Sustainability provides professional support by making recommendations on developments, proposals to the city manager and the city council, and conducting long-range special studies. The department's mission is to influence in a positive and constructive way, and with significant citizen involvement, the growth and physical development of the city, thereby ensuring its consistency with approved plans, the land use policies and guidelines of the City Council, and development regulations of Prince George's County. The department reviews individual development proposals, prepares and coordinates plans, studies, and recommendations, and participates in policy planning. The Planning and Sustainability Department also provides technical assistance and staff liaison to the Bowie Advisory Board, Environment Advisory Committee, the Bowie Green Team, Executive Committee. The department also distributes land, development, and demographic information, reviews county and state legislation affecting the city, and negotiates annexation agreements. Looking at the objectives for 2022, Objective A, which is participate in the master plan update for the Bowie area, our participation was thorough and efficient, and the county approved the plan earlier this year. B, and initiate a neighborhood engagement program to help implement the 2014 Sustainability Plan, Goal CT5, which is to involve 6,000 residents in events and in programs that strengthen the neighborhood connection by November 30th, 2021. The program continues to be advertised online and in the city's newsletter, and a total of 2 events have been held so far. C, complete mapping and analysis of the Bowie Center by July 31st, 2021. Mapping of the city Bowie Center was completed in July and used in the city's position statement regarding the preliminary Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity area master plan update. The analysis of related data, as well as information from the American Community Survey, was substantially complete by July 31st, 2021. D, initiate and adopt the road program for selected city streets by August the 30th, 2021. 13 roads were adopted and 12 cleaned up, 1 completed by each adoptee. Volunteer group recognition signs were made and installed by the Public Works Department. E, complete 3 required actions under the Mayor's Monarch Pledge Community Certification Program by December 31st, 2021. The 2021 report was completed and accepted by the National Wildlife Federation Community Wildlife Habitat Certification Organization. When looking at our performance indicators, There aren't very many changes other than the number of public notice letters mailed out is 1,000 for 2022 as opposed to 1,100 last year, 1,700 the year before. Otherwise, the only significant change that I could pick up is the number of green Bowie e-news, which is now was 1,044 as opposed to 990. The objective for 2023 are one, to abstain recertification in the Sustainability Maryland Certified Program by December 31st, 2022. Please note that the second objective is we propose to delete that, which is to complete the wayfinding signage plan. We intend to conduct this as a matter of normal operations rather than a particular goal. 3, update the city's tree canopy coverage estimate by March of 2023. Initiate a new city incentive rebate program for electric-powered lawn service equipment by July 31st, 2022. Initiate a sustainability business incentive program, grant program by December 31st, 2022. Create procedure checklist form for projects, simplify worksheets, and update development review process guidelines by August 31st, 2022. Create a new handout, what is the variance versus planning director variance, by December 31st, 2022. Create a yearly mailer to older neighborhoods regarding the energy audit program and energy efficiency by June 30th, 2023. And finally, refresh the Green Bowie branding program by June 30th, 2023. There is a significant change to the budget, to this budget, which is the addition of a sustainability manager position, grade X118, at a cost of $113,375. With this, also if you look at the full-time equivalence chart, we propose that the senior planner name be changed to a transportation specialist 2, which is more accurate in the operational function. And so therefore, there are 6 people in the planning department, 6 full-time employees. The majority of our spending in this situation is on salary, wages, fringe benefits, $563,400 and $211,900. Significant spending in professional services and program supplements for the Neighborhood Mini Grant Program, Plant One Tree for Us Program, Energy Audit Reimbursement Program, Residential Rebate Program from electric-powered lawnmower equipment, and Sustainability Business Grant Program. All that totals $75,000. And there are $17,800 in subscriptions. Any questions for us regarding the planning and sustainability budget for 2023?
A quick question, if I may, Mr. City Manager. What is the thinking on the electric-powered lawn maintenance? I thought we already had a program for that.
Yeah, the current program is for gas-powered engine. This is for electric power.
Okay.
So
this would be for electric lawnmowers and electric leaf blowers? Okay.
right,
Gotcha.
I just got a couple of those myself, so I'm happy it's here, but yes.
Well, if you want, you can come try them out on my yard. I mean, if you want to, just to test them but you got to test them every week.
Electric weed whackers, electric blowers, and lawnmowers, yes.
Okay, thank you. And energy audit programs, do we know how many we've conducted? And I'm sorry, I may have missed it because I don't have my actual notes here. Do you know how many we've conducted for past years for the Leavitt neighborhoods?
Yes, sir. It's in the, Joe Minor, for the record, it's in the workload and performance indicators.
Thank you.
The annual the annual totals. In this current year, we're up to 47 out of the 50 which we have available.
Excellent, thank you. We plan to keep it at that same level?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the Planning and Sustainability Department? If not, we'll move to the IT Department. There is a new sheet for the IT Department. Should be on your desk up there?
Yes.
Right. At your location. Okay. The Information Tech Department delivers economical, technology products, solutions, and services to all city departments. The major goal of the department is to ensure sound technological solutions are implemented to assist departments with the delivery of the city's services by providing reliable communications and modern infrastructure. This goal is accomplished by collaborating with city departments to plan for efficient and effective use of technology. The objectives for 2022 were to explore the feasibility and cost to create a subdomain for the police department on the network. The study was completed on December 23rd, 2021. The feasibility study will be tested through June. Funding for applicable changes are included in the FY23 budget. The upgrade equipment in the conference rooms to make them more collaborative and ready for virtual meetings. The objective is to complete this by the end of April. Unfortunately, these projects are still ongoing and subject to the slowdown in the supply chain, and for things such as cameras, microphones, and other pieces of equipment that would aid this project. But we, like everybody else, we're waiting for one part or another, and but we will continue to push the issue. C, explore software as a solution option to improve the efficiency of operations throughout the city and to improve the public experience on the website. This will be completed by May the 27th of 2022. Open Forms was implemented in October 2021 and is used to build online forms and workflows internally and on the website. The e-signature software Adobe Sign will be implemented in May of this year. Staff selected a software product to improve operations of code enforcement, animal control, and city permits. Funding for the software was added to the FY 2023 budget. D, utilize existing fiber to create redundant network paths to improve the resiliency of the city network. This will be completed in June 30th, 2022. The department is currently working with the Business Operation Division to have redundant fiber run to multiple facilities. That project will be completed in the future. Existing fiber to Parks and Grounds Division will be connected to the city network in June, and staff is working with Prince George's County INET to provide the city a redundant internet connection, and that will be completed this month. So, if we go to page 84 there, and take a look at the workloads, one of the things you might notice that, you know, FY21, 22, some people may have slowed down, but the IT department sped up in some cases. So they're certainly, the workload and the work activity what kept us going during the crux of the pandemic. Objectives for fiscal year 2023, one is to improve endpoint security by reviewing current protection capabilities and procedures, create security standards for all endpoint devices, procure and deploy new endpoint security. This will be completed by September 30, 2022. Number two will be to work with community service and public works departments, implement software to improve work processes for code enforcement animal control, and permitting. This will be completed by June 30th of 2023. Number 3 there would be to review current server and backup infrastructure and create a 3-year plan for upgrade and replacement of aging equipment. Plan will consider the use of the cloud infrastructure to replace existing physical equipment for the appropriate cost savings. Plan will be completed by December 30th of 2022. Number 4 is to utilize feasibility study created in 2022 to create a subdomain for the police department on network. Work to be completed by May 31st, 2023. There are no significant budget changes in this division. Currently, the IT department has authorized 17 full-time employees. We are still working hard to recruit the network administrators, and the HR director and I and IT department is going to be working to see what we can do to enhance that recruitment. Salaries and wages are a big part of the operation. Salaries and wages are nearly $1.5 million, and fringe benefits of $466,300. We use significant amount of money for repair and maintenance for our hardware and software at $1,132,800, and communications, of course, cell phones, Wi-Fi, and our phone system. We pay for that at $357,100. Finally, if you look at the page 86 there, we pay $346,500, but we project that much to provide for cost of computers, servers, monitors, printers, print management, and other services associated with automation in our systems. Arguably the most critical department that we have. Any questions regarding the IT department?
Yeah, real quick, Mr. City Manager. When you guys are moving to do the website updates, to what extent do you guys sit down with members of the senior community to get feedback on the website? Because very often the folks that I find who have the most trouble navigating it tend to be senior residents. So I'm wondering if you guys do any like unofficial focus grouping with like the senior center?
I can't answer that question. I'd have to check with Una, and you got any insight on that one?
No, that's more of an Una.
Right. I can check with Una to see what interface she has with the senior center, and I'm sure there's some communications. I mean, as a senior myself, I get around on the website pretty good, but I know some of my baby boomers may not be able to do that, and we'll certainly want to know what their challenges are. So I'll check in on that when I get back to you. Any other questions regarding the IT
Yes.
department?
Yeah, Mr. City Manager, and I guess this may be a question, Mr. Peterson. What's left on premises for our software solutions?
Well, I'm not sure if that's a conversation we should have in public, because we're trying to move a lot of our stuff off-site for security reasons, but there are not many critical services left to move off to SaaS. Munis was one of our last major functions to move off-prem.
All right. Do you think maybe you could provide me a list of that offline then, please?
Absolutely.
Yep. And I guess if you could juxtapose that with stuff that we've already moved to cloud-based solutions, that'd be good too. Thank you.
Okay.
Trying to think, I think there was a second question. All right, I'll let other folks go until I can find my other question. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you for recognizing me. I think the only thing there's one thing I have a comment and then just, two comments. The first thing is, I guess I'd be a little wary with the list maybe going out of what we have on-prem versus what's in the cloud. I think that gives me pause or some sort of concern. So, and Councilmember Wolfley, if you could just maybe have a conversation with Todd offline about that, because I guess that would just give me pause as an IT professional, as of some list living in emails that's quite accessible and things of that sort to make sure that we're maintaining our security posture. So that's the only thing that I would think about there that gives me slight pause in your request. And then the second part, I just wanted to highlight Todd's leadership over the last year has been really astronomical, and he's just been amazing. And the work that he's done with the IT committee has been absolutely phenomenal. And the progress that we've made in such short time with him and Al's leadership, it's just been really, really great to see what we've done in IT. So I just wanted to really just give Todd kudos, to be honest with you, because we've done so much and we've moved critical work streams, and he continues to be an innovative and forward thinker and a innovative technology leader, thinking about the different innovations that we can have from a customer, I guess you would say customer focused perspective, customers being constituents and making sure that they have the most optimized experiences when interacting with city services digitally. So I just wanted to highlight that. But yeah, Councilman Wolfley, maybe just think about that, because that gives me a little pause.
I can go old school. You can send me a hard printed copy if you like. Either way, send me a list. Thank you.
So then, any other questions for the IT department? Okay then. Well, if there aren't any questions for the IT department, we'll move to equipment acquisition and replacement, which would be on page 162 of the budget. We'll go through the summary there, so everybody will understand what we're doing there. Looking at page 162, you'll see that the revenue estimates for that involves $7,900 for proposed for interest income for that for 2022 that we 2023. We appropriated from fund balance was $951,400. We transferred $2,920,000 and $600 to from the fund balance into this pot of money with the intent to spend $3,979,900 in equipment replacement. If you follow down to the second chart there, which is a chart of how we expend that money by function. General government, $363,000. Public safety, $426,900. Public works, $582,700. Nothing for social services, and parks and recs, $290,000. And reserves that we've already saved up for this equipment is $2,317,300 for a total of $3,979,900. If you go to page 163, look at how we expend our monies by department or by function there. IT, you know, we've got $218,000. You know, you can see copies are really expensive. Electronic door access controls, those things are really expensive. Community services, we're replacing our message boards. And also in building maintenance, we're pickup truck replacement. That's going to be an EV vehicle. Also, public safety, we're going to replace a 150 pickup truck with an EV vehicle also, and we're getting a new electric vehicle in that particular operation. Police department, we're replacing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sedans, and for a total of $324,000, and you add the other public safety vehicles into it, that's $426,900. On the Public Works, we're gonna get a hybrid Fusion, and for $53,000. The Solid Waste Division, we're gonna replace a Freightliner refuse truck for $257,000, and a GMC box truck for $114,000, and that's the vehicle that picks up the refrigerators and that sort of thing. For a total of $372,000. Streets Division, we're going to be getting dump trucks and a F-350 pickup truck, heavy-duty pickup truck, and for a total of $582,700. And on the Parks and Recs, we're going to replace a bucket truck, replace a Chevy pickup truck, and we're going to replace a Toro Workman for $20,000, and a new sweep all machine for $10,000, and then a new leaf vac machine for $60,000. All total in Parks and Grounds is going to be $209,000. Note that what we show in the columns there, I should have explained that earlier, there's the amount of money we reserve, the amount of money we're bringing over, and so we're constantly, one of the very positive spending practices, we save money as we go along with the anticipation of replacing a vehicle. So you end up with the same total, $3,979,900 for equipment replacement for this year. Understand that when a vehicle, somebody comes in and makes a pitch to replace a vehicle, they have to demonstrate that one, the number of years on the vehicle, the number of miles on the vehicle, or hours, depending on the type of vehicle, and we look at how we take an assessment of the maintenance management, along with a lot of other factors, to determine whether the vehicle should be replaced. Of course, the last thing we want is have a critical piece of equipment fail and then not be able to provide the service. And I use my maintenance management experience to help extend the life of our vehicle as long as we can. So any questions regarding equipment acquisition and replacement?
A quick question, City Manager.
Sure.
As we go through this, I'm looking at the numbers. I take it again, inflation has had an impact on you, on what you're trying to do?
Yes, it has. In certain places, if you go to the Solid Waste Division, we're replacing a refuse truck for $257,900. Last year, we bought the truck for $190,000.
Wow.
But it's, we simply have to have the truck, and we're glad to get it at this price so that we can continue to deliver the service. And we're not alone. Everybody's experiencing the same thing.
Yeah. Good.
That's just one
Please.
example.
Councilwoman?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Manager, what do we do with the retired vehicles?
We auctioned them off,
Okay.
and we do rather well. Man, you'd be surprised at the people who want to buy these old vehicles, but they do. We get decent prices for them.
Great, thank you.
And actually, a quick question for you on that. The funds we receive from that, are those returned to the Equipment Acquisition Replacement Fund?
Yeah, they go back to the Equipment Acquisition Fund.
Thank you.
Now the Finance Director will take it from here.
Good evening, Council and Mayor.
Good
Byron
evening.
Matthews, Finance Director. This evening, I would like to start on page 21 and go over the general fund summaries. During the 5 budget work sessions, we've basically gone over each department's expenditures. And then these summary pages is just a recap of all of those expenditures by function or by object to give you a kind of a drill down look at how the city is spending its money. So on page 21, we give you a picture of expenditures by object. And you can see that we are very heavily personal services, which runs 54% of our budget. Contractual services follow commodities, other charges, capital outlay, debt service, and transfers. As you notice here, we have $11,571,500, $11,571,500 for transfers, and that's made up of monies that we're transferring to the Equipment Acquisition Fund and the Capital Projects Fund. On page 22 is another depiction of general fund expenditures on the function level. General government, economic development, public safety, social services, public works, parks, culture and recreation, the non-departmental, again, the transfers to other funds, debt service, and the total appropriation. On page 24, we show you the data in a different sort, and this is by department. The departments that are managed by the city manager's department, the police department, information technology, you have the finance department, you have community services and all the divisions under that department. We have planning and sustainability. Then you have public works and the related divisions under that department. A breakdown of the non-departmental and transfers to give again the total appropriation for the general fund of $77,362,400 proposed for FY23. On page 26, it's a summary of our revenue sources, and we break those down into our major categories. Real and personal property taxes, which is the major share of our revenue. It normally generates about 61% of our income. Intergovernmental funds, those are all of our federal grants, our state grants, our business taxes, state shared revenues, grants from other local units. And our next major category is licenses and permits. The other sources of revenue are our charges for services and fines and other revenue. And this page can be traced to our revenue detail that's on the subsequent section as you move into revenues. So if you ever wanted to just kind of balance those numbers against what's in the budget, you can do that. On page 27, we try to give you the 10-year trend of all of the revenue sources over the last 10 years. And as you can see from the total, our revenues have steadily increased, and most of that is dealing with the assessed value of property in the city of Bowie. On page 28, we give you a 10-year summary of our tax revenues. Again, just shown in a different breakdown so that you can see the makeup of our state shared revenues, our property taxes, our corporation tax, and our hotel motel tax, which is starting to kind of recover after the pandemic slowdown. On page 29, we have expenditures by function. This represents all of the expenditures in the general fund for a 10-year trend. And as you can see, our expenditures are trending up. Our estimated for FY '22 is 61.4 million, and in FY '23 we're proposing 77.4 million. On page 30, we move to our per capita information on a 10-year trend. And this is a picture of our general fund revenues and expenditures divided by population. On page 31, we began to show you all of the tax rates that are within the city of Bowie. And as you can tell, the city's rate has been the same on this particular page from 2014 to the proposed 2023. The next column deals with the county's rate. And as you know, homeowners in the city of Bowie do not pay the full county rate. And this is because we have a tax differential in Bowie. So for those services that the city provides, the county no longer has to provide. So in the county tax rate, they give that money back to the taxpayers. It does not come to the city of Bowie. It is a reduction in their city tax, or a reduction in their county tax, excuse me. It's a reduction in their county tax. And in our current budget proposed for FY '23, that return is going to be 15 cents, basically. So as you can see, for FY '23, if you lived in the city of Bowie, you will have a tax rate of 40 cents. Your county rate will be 85 cents. Your state rate will be 11 cents. Your park and planning will be 29 cents. And your Washington Suburban Sanitation Commission will be basically 3 cents. So that gives you a tax rate of 1.686 for the proposed fiscal year. Council, I think last week we provided you the tentative changes to the proposed budget. We communicated to you that based on several conditions, basically dealing with increase in salary and pay, that we had to modify our budget. That total amount totaled $307,900 in additional spending. So that amount would be added to the use of the fund balance. As we originally proposed the fund balance to you, it was $18,506,000. This additional $307,900 will bring that proposed fund balance to $18,813,900. Now, all of that additional expenditure is for the general fund. So when we originally proposed the general fund budget to you, the total expenditure was $77,362,400. Adding this $307,900, the new amount for general fund expenditures is $70,300. Also, we wanted to bring your attention to the additional revenue for the Bowie racetrack that would be recognized in FY '23, and that is the $1.5 million for the racetrack. That's going to be revenue neutral to us because there is a State of Maryland Consolidated Capital Bond Loan in place to fund that $1.5 million. From that, council, I would like to go to the appendix and share the items there. On page 304, there's a summary of the total personnel by department for the last 3 fiscal years. On page 305 represents our compensation plan, our proposed compensation plan for FY23, along with page 306 and 307. The police department is on a different plan, so they have their own special page for plan of compensation, both non-command officers and command officers. On page 309 is just a list of all of the authorized classification and positions listed in the City of Bowie. That takes us on page 309, 310, and 311. On page 312, we tried to provide you with some demographic information that's lifted from the city's annual report. The first piece of information gives you a 10-year summary of the population, personal taxable income, per capita income, median age, education level, school enrollment, and the unemployment rate. On page 313, we give you additional information relating to the assessed value of both residential and commercial property. We also depict those items that are tax exempt. But it gives you the continued trend that the estimated total actual value of our property here in the city of Bowie is steadily growing. Its value is steadily increasing at a rate of about 5% annually. On page 314, we're showing you the principal property taxpayers. And on page 315, we're providing you with the principal employers in the city of Bowie. On page 316 is a list of all the pretty words that us accountants like to use throughout the course of the year. If you're concerned about any of those acronyms that we may use, you can find out what they mean here. And other important words that are listed throughout our budget, we give full description in this section. Oh, I'm complete. Council, if you have any questions, please let me know. But that concludes my presentation.
Well, Mr. Mayor, at this point, I'd like to open up for any questions and from you all, and hand it over to you for the wrap-up of the budget process.
Mr. City Manager, I do have a quick question for Mr. Matthews. Remind me the distinction between the X and Y scale.
Those employees on the X scale work 1,950 hours per year, and those employees on the Y scale work 2,080 hours a year.
And the distinguishing factor between those, the types of nature of the work between the two?
Yes, most of the X employees are clerical in nature and management in nature, and most of the Y employees are our solid waste folks, our street folks, our parks and grounds folks.
Thank you.
If you could, Mr. Matthews, could you, just a few things so that we can kind of sum up as we're coming into the closing process of what we're doing at the budget.
Okay.
I know one of the things we've been very proud of in the city is that, how long has it been since there's been a tax increase?
13 years, Mayor.
Okay, so it's been 13 years we did that. What is the projected use of the fund balance right now?
Let me go back. Projected use of the fund balance is 18.5 million for this fiscal year. No.
He mentioned that also.
Yeah, they have to add that.
An additional 300K.
That additional dollars you were talking about?
Yeah, 18.8.
18.8.
18.8 for the other amount that's not included there.
Okay, one more time, can you give us an idea as I look at this, when we look at the expenditures and what we're supposed to maintain, or we have chosen as a council historically to maintain and the fund balance as a percentage of operating expense, what is that number?
Mayor, the council had put in place many years ago a 25% fund balance policy. This is 25% of expenditures. In our current projection, we are not in compliance with that policy. As you can see on page 12 of our budget, right now, the proposal would put us at 23%. And for all of the remaining out years, we will be out of compliance based on this forecast model.
Okay, I know you talked a little earlier about how the city, when we talk about the growth,
Right.
and our property assessments versus those fixed or potential costs that we see potentially, how do the two of those balance? Our
Well, Mayor-
revenues versus our potential expenditures.
Mayor, well, as you know, the history of the financing policy for the city of Bowie has been one of conservative revenue. Expenditures have been more liberal in our budget process because we're trying to make sure that we're including everything that we can possibly include within the zero-based budgeting that the city does. Right now, our expenditures are outpacing our revenue, and it has been. But I want to share with council that we have done a yeoman's job over the last 13 years of managing our fund balance and growing city services. At the same time, not taxing our residents. So what council has done over the last 13 years is outstanding. But like in any household where your expenses are outdriving your revenue, decisions have to be made. You have to increase revenue or you have to reduce your expenditures.
One of the things that we've heard and we've talked about a little is how do we make up that deficit, so to speak? And is that something where we need to look at raising taxes to make up that deficit?
Well, that's definitely one option, Mayor. We have proposed tax increases over the last 4 years, and all of those have been deferred. And we have used the fund balance to basically grow the city. And that has worked for us for a long period of time. And it has been part of the policy to use the fund balance to fund city operations and capital projects.
And please, Mr. Matthews, I'm not attacking you in any way as I keep asking these questions, but I think it's good for all of us to understand where we are and where we're doing it. Now, I know one of the other things we could potentially look at doing is reducing city services, correct?
That's an option, sir.
And I see you don't want to go into that detail much at all.
No, because I think our residents are very demanding. They expect a certain quality of service, and the city of Bowie has always provided that. And I think they understand that in order to have those quality services, we must have the revenues to pay for them. And using our fund balance to fund that growth over the last 13 years has worked for us, but now we're at a crossroad. We are at the point where we need to look at our revenue. How can we increase it in order to keep pace with the growth that the city is experiencing? Our operating expenditures are expected to grow in the general fund about 5 to 6% annually. But our revenue from our biggest revenue generator, property tax, will only grow at 5%.
I'd like to chime in on that, Mr. Mayor. You know, as we look at the economic situation that exists in our country today, one of the things that's occurring is that the Fed chair is increasing the interest rate in order to slow down inflation. One of the things that could happen, or is likely to happen, is that the interest rate, another 1.5, and you would possibly create a recession.
Okay.
If a recession occurs, one of the things that happened to us in 08 and 09 is that the property values dropped. And all of a sudden, what you thought you were going to get in property value, in property taxes, you got less because of the decline in the property value associated with the recession. That's what happened in Dougherty County, and it could happen here. So just as a matter of discussion about the economy.
Yeah.
And also the other thing that we know, there are some uncertainties. We are not certain how inflation will affect our equipment access for next year and availability of equipment, especially those critical pieces of equipment, the vehicles we use for leaf collection, and our trash trucks, our dump trucks, and our police cars. Yeah. And so that could all be 10 to 12% higher. Also, the average cost for a gallon of gas in the DMV is $4.67. It was $3.90 or so a month or so ago, and invariably we'll be affected by that too, as we purchase fuel for all these vehicles we have out there. So we have an inflation situation that we have to be concerned with. And the other thing, finally, the projection for the fund balance for next year is to have $8 million, but that's contingent on an 8-cent tax increase. When you look at read the document, absent that tax increase, in order for us to do what we're doing right now, we're going to have to multiply that 8 cents times 8 times 8.90, and take that much more from the fund balance, which could virtually zero the fund balance, or put us in a deficit spending situation with the current plan that we have now. And that includes all the CRP projects and everything else. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that. I think it's important that all of us understand, council as well as our citizens and all that, we're in a challenging position right now.
Correct.
I think the city manager did a good job, and thank all the staff for what you presented. And what I'm getting to is, I know you said that, you know, we're faced with inflation right now, so you're trying to manage that, and nobody has a crystal ball, and we get that. We understand that. We also know that we potentially can face a recession. And so we're at a point of where we need to take action. That's a responsibility that falls to us. On what do we do? How do we move forward as a council together? Because that's what we would do. I would like to ask, and I think Byron would be able to answer, but I would like to ask the council at this point. One of the things that we did earlier this year was we moved and kind of earmarked the $11 million that we had for the ice arena, for the future building of that. What I would like to see, not changing that, but I'd like to see what would happen if we moved that 11 million back right now until the final costs come in. We move forward, but still looking at the cost to build and those kind of things. What would happen if we moved that 11 million back into, right now, into the general fund until we made a final decision?
Excluding the 300,000 that we talked about earlier, the fund balance would increase to 29.7 million, rather with that increase of the 11.6 million, because our estimate for right now is 8.1 million of remaining fund balance. So
Okay.
if we included the extra 3 million in that, we'll be at 29.4.
Okay. What I would like to do at this time is ask the council to reconsider their vote on having moved that money, identified it from the general fund for the Iceplex, and look at moving it back right now, just so that we could have that in the general fund. Not talking about spending it or anything else, but actually having it there to meet some of the requirements we have. So I would like council to reconsider that. As you heard, that would put us back up, that would put us at the 29. We still need to make sure and can move forward with the development, the plans we're doing with the Iceplex, but this would put us in a position where we would have the fund balance that we would need moving forward. So I would just ask council to reconsider that.
I have a question for staff. City manager, what would, I don't know if the city attorney, well, no, the city attorney isn't available. What would be required of council in order to do such? If the funds are sitting there being unused, perhaps it would be prudent to move those funds to the general fund.
Well, what it would be, what we need is some direction by my observation from at least 4 of you to no longer, to remove that earmark, put that money in the fund balance, with the intent, I would basically assume that once we got to the point, if we get to the point of completing the developmental process for the ice arena, at that point, that council will have to determine how they would fund the ice arena. Of course, some of that money might be spent at that time if it takes 1.5 years, just as a matter of fact, of operations. But, and then there would have to be unless we get a windfall, some sort of borrowing exercise to borrow some or all of that money. But with your direction, yes.
We got can't use that for general.
Well, let us go back and check on whether we can use that money, which was designated for a capital project, for general fund. We'd have to talk with our lawyers on that one. But,
Understood. Yeah, that's why I asked if the city attorney were available, because I would understand, it could be the council could do it, but it would require some special movement. It would be my thought that we would move those dollars simply because they're sitting there unused, and I, as Councilmember Gardner, would not support borrowing any additional monies for an ice arena or such a facility to add to those dollars, because I don't want to go back out and borrow money. So if we're not, and looking from my point of view, if we're not going to borrow money, then we should direct those funds to the general fund balance to be used on programs across the city for capital improvement programs. And correct me if I'm off track.
Yes, Councilman, I think from my position, we won't be able to use that 11.6 million for general operating purposes. The money was gotten by a bond issuance for a capital project. I think it allows us to continue to use that for capital projects.
For capital projects.
But it doesn't allow us to use it for our regular operating.
So if we place it into our, or set it aside for capital projects, then that we can do.
Yes, that we
Okay,
can
I
do,
would
and that's
support
what we're
that.
doing now.
That is what I would support doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what we did last year.
And that's what we did last year. Okay, for a number of our different projects, such as the Heritage Trail and number of other items that require funding at this time. Okay, I could support that, yes.
Well, I think what
we
we
were to
need to
move
do is
with
have
Mr.
a motion. Would you like to?
I got a quick
Mr.
question.
Mayor, I have a quick, hello?
Go ahead.
I'd like to hear
Councilwoman.
from Dufour and.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Oh, can I go, or?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay. I have a quick question. It is related to this, but it's slightly unrelated to this. Perhaps we haven't reached the point where this has been necessary, but I'm just curious. Do we have plans? I think this is for Mr. City Manager. Do we have plans to go through and maybe do some sort of audit to see if there are any duplication in services that we're offering? Because I know, like, when a lot of our services came about and we started them, of course that wasn't the case, but I know that as things are evolving with the county and with the state, there are a lot of other things that are being offering through those avenues. So I'm just wondering if we have any plans to do an audit to see if there is any duplication, or if there are any areas that we might be maybe spending a little bit more on that we don't necessarily need to because of new services that have come out from the state or either the county.
We go through that procedure each year with duplications of services through the tax differential program with the county.
Okay.
So those monies are already given back to the residents
Okay.
through a reduced
awesome.
tax bill.
Okay, and Byron, just a quick question for you. Does that include some of maybe our larger, that includes all of our services, even the larger ones as well, correct?
Well, it's based on the services that are funded by the general fund for Prince George's County. So when we have like services that have that same funding source, they qualify for tax differential. At the same time, it's also the magnitude of services that are provided. For example, we don't have shelters for pets, so we don't get the full tax benefit that we could get if we did the full service for animal control. Same way as for the police department. If we did all of the services that are provided by the police department, we would experience 100% tax differential credit to our citizens. But some of the investigations, the homicide investigations as well, are conducted by the county, and therefore we don't see the benefit of that. But we go through this each October with Prince George's County government. We have a meeting, we sit down, we have to fill in an application that shows the services that the city of Bowie provides in great detail, and they do analysis of that by reviewing our budget, looking at our financial statements, and then determining what part of that service that we're rendering is a duplication of the services that the county renders.
And do they also, or does in conversation, do areas that are not funded by the general fund come up as well, or it is only limited to the general fund funding source?
It's just limited to the general fund funding source.
Okay, and so do we do a separate audit of those other sources that are not through the general fund?
The only other source is the water and sewer fund, which is not provided by any other facility other than our own water and wastewater treatment plant for our 4,400 customers.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I believe Councilmember Dufour, Michael is still.
Either way. Quick question, Byron. Do other jurisdictions get a tax differential with county parks and planning?
I'm not aware of that. We're not getting a tax differential from Park and Planning.
I was just curious, maybe if staff wouldn't mind just doing investigative work, whether that's just calling the finance director at Greenbelt or somewhere else, and just asking if any other jurisdictions are able to apply for some sort of differential, I'd be curious.
We are receiving $115,000 annual for Allen Pond. But that's the only thing that we're receiving from Park and Planning, to my knowledge, as it relates to use of a facility.
Gotcha. Okay. My other question is, so that the $10,800,000 that's left over from the ice arena, that's a part of the money that's the money that we borrowed, right? That's what remains from that, right?
That's correct.
Are we continuing to make the loan payments on that initial loan?
That's true.
So just as a friendly reminder, folks, we already bought an ice arena. We bought and are paying for a 2-sheet ice arena. We just chose not to build it. So just want to gently remind everyone of that. Also wanted to take a second to point out that had we moved forward with the construction of the 2-sheet ice arena, we'd have a 2-sheet ice arena right now that'd be generating revenue. Instead of looking at a 1-sheet arena that's going to cost us almost as much money to build. And we're going to have to go out and borrow money again to do that in all likelihood. So we're going to be paying twice for 1 sheet, just as a general reminder.
Thank you, Councilmember Stev. I totally agree with your comments there. I've been in conversation with Mayor Pro Tem Boafo, and he made an introduction and of a program that I don't know if others here in the council have had a chance to speak with the gentleman, Michael Roach. He did say that he had conversation with some of our colleagues to where they have a program, his firm offers a program to where they would build to suit. They could build 1, 2 sheets of ice, and the city more or less leases this facility. All of our staff stays in place. We completely manage this. We spend $0 except making the lease payments, which will come from the proceeds of those that are skating or participating on ice. So it wouldn't be on the backs of the taxpayer. I mentioned to Mayor Pro Tem Boafo that I was very much on board with that, and if in fact he were to ask for support, if we were to move forward with such, I could support that. But rather than borrowing the money, additional funds for 1 sheet of ice, let's just say if we borrowed another $20 million, we would be paying $44 million for 1 sheet of ice. And that's why I continue to tell residents that I couldn't support borrowing any additional monies, but the monies that are remaining from the initial project, I would support another use or moving those funds over to cover some of our capital improvement projects that we have pending currently, rather than putting, we would have borrowed the money or possibly for some of these projects. So it's more or less the same. It almost equals out logically. Dollars and cents, I would have to let our finance director take a dive in that so that we can make sure that our neighbors and friends understand that. But this is why I personally couldn't support borrowing additional monies, but the funds that we have borrowed, would definitely support, supporting having those funds go on to fund improvements that we have put on the books.
Council, this is just a technical issue as it relates to leases.
Yes.
Okay? If the city involves itself in a lease of this type, it will be considered a capital lease.
Yeah.
That debt will be on the books as though we went out to issue bonds.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That I did not know.
We have to recognize that.
Okay.
With the new GASB 87 on leases, there are no more operating leases. All leases are capitalized leases if they have a lease time of 12 months or more.
Okay.
We will have to recognize that. So that would go up against your debt affordability percentage that we're using, and it would just show in our financial statements as a leased asset and the liability as we pay down on it.
Okay, okay. Okay. But let me question, does it carry, because I want to know, because I don't know, I'm asking this question, will it carry the same, will it
Would it be equivalent to like we're borrowing?
would it be equivalent, yeah, on our books if a bank or creditor or someone else looked at it? Will it be?
Yes, it would be the same because the lease is basically being issued based on the city's credit.
Correct.
So then,
Okay, so the best interest rate you get is based on our credit, just as though we would go to the bond market and ask for funding from a syndicate.
so it would be equivalent if we went out and borrowed the money, there's no difference is what you're saying?
There are some slight differences, but as far as the debt itself, it will appear on our books
Okay.
as though it was a bond issuance.
I like to, when we go through this, if we can go through this, if we go through this exercise, I like to simply break it down, the pros and cons to this. And the pros and cons to borrowing the money, the pros and cons to leasing, and then evaluating which would be best to move forward with, or better to move forward with.
In most cases, sometime your issuance cost is a little less, lesser on a lease versus issuing debt. But in this case, with this type of lease deal, it's based on your line of credit. So the better our credit is, the better the rate will be.
Okay, okay. And I know that in having conversation with the gentleman, that we could look at this as an option, not just for ICE, but also for courts. And I do want to stress that if we were to go down that road, that I would want to explore courts as well as ICE. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. The floor is yours. Okay, thank you so very much for that. I would again ask council at this time if they would reconsider the movement of the money, the 11 million plus back into the CIP.
I would support.
I would need someone to make a motion for us to do that.
But I believe I heard earlier that the money is not usable as monies for operational. It's purely a capital
CIP.
assets.
Yes, so
So we
would be
cannot
moving
put it in the general fund for general purposes.
But
Is
we
that
could
correct,
make it
Mr. Matthews?
available.
To the CIP.
That's correct.
That's right. So it needs to reside where it is. It can't be put in the general fund. So it resides there and it continues to be used in the same manner which we've been using it, which is for capital improvement costs.
Okay.
It's already there.
So it's already where it needs to be?
It's already where it needs to be. There's no change to make.
Am I?
There's one difference.
Okay, what's the difference?
Currently, the money is earmarked and set aside. What we had planned to do before this ice rink situation came up was to use it, as we did last year, to fund the CIP. But instead, we earmarked it and set it aside. And we took $8 million out of the fund balance to fund the CIP, correct? Right. So those are the financial facts.
So those dollars will go back into the general fund. It would be switching it.
Well, you know, it would be no longer earmarked if you change things. And then we would then recommend taking the $8 million from there rather than the general fund, if it were available. But since it isn't, we're taking the money from the fund balance.
So the $8 million
Be in the general fund.
will be in the general fund. Where would this $8 million come from, physically actually come from?
The $8 million would, if, an option would be, and I'm not, it's up to you all. The option would be for us to do the same thing we did last year, which was take it from the remaining 11.6 and whatever is left. And that, of course, would reduce it a bit by that amount of money. And the fund balance would be the $8 million richer.
Okay.
So
Okay.
basically
it's the same
removing the
thing.
earmark from the $11 million.
I mean, that's
So
one
you're
course of
basically removing the
action.
earmark.
That's one course of action for you, and that's how we could manage it right now.
It would stay in the
It's the same
CIP, but
thing.
you would
It
not
just
make it an
changed
earmark.
words. The outcome is the same, yeah.
We would have the money
For
Instead of using
CIP
it.
projects, rather than using the general fund now, draining that down lesser.
that money would just,
Exactly.
but we
Okay.
still have the money.
Yes, we would still have the money, we're just moving it. Okay.
You're not really moving it.
We're not really moving it, we're just,
You're
Moving it.
reallocating it to other capital projects, but then the decision is, what do we do when it's time to install the ice arena? Because there would not be any seed money to begin that project.
That's the whole thing.
And that's we use from the general
that's
fund.
where I'm going again on that, supporting borrowing money for the ice.
Right.
So,
But now, okay,
so,
We-
now we need the seed money. to
Question.
support the
would they
initial
still have
development.
enough? They still have it.
Yeah, because we could still,
the
we could
seed money
still
is- yeah.
utilize the money from the general fund if we chose to then do the ice arena, is what I'm saying. The money would be there if we chose to move it from the general fund to support the CIP as we do every other thing. Yeah, it's just removing that earmark, it's taking that, okay.
Yes, removing the earmark of the 11.6 would free up $8 million for other capital projects proposed in the FY23 budget. That way, we wouldn't have to transfer $8 million from the general fund. However, that $8 million coming from capital projects is going to leave you about $3 million or so for the ice rink.
Okay.
And that, at that point, we're going to have to look at a way of funding the construction when it's time, and that will be in '24, according to the schedule, of how we fund it. Do we issue new debt? Do we do the lease transaction, or do we, again, take money from the general fund to fund that project?
Okay. Go ahead, I'll let you.
Okay, I totally understand what you're saying, and so my position remains the same. I would support the removal of the earmark.
So the only comment I
Need
would,
to make a motion to do that.
well, the comment I would make to that is that the money still needs to come from somewhere, and the fact that we've earmarked it, set it aside, just means we got to go find the money elsewhere, and the fund balance will certainly be a little higher, the unreserved general fund balance, but that just means you got to take it out of the fund balance later.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean you escape trying to get new revenue sources. It doesn't,
We'll just
whether it's either taxes or another loan, you're still in a position.
So if we have remaining funds in the fund balance at that time, if we need it, then we can just pull it from the fund balance, correct?
I think we've seen what's going to happen with the fund balance. It's not going to be there.
Yes, I don't think we'll have enough in the fund balance to pay for the entire project.
Well, of course, not for the entire project, but
Right, we may be able to,
cover the initial startup costs.
yes, we may be
Okay.
able to handle a few million dollars.
Which is where we are now. We don't have the money to build an ice arena now. We just have the monies to fund the initial startup costs. So we're basically going to be in the same position if we remove the earmark. And that's where I am. Yes.
Please note that we've also, in our CIP, added, we found a way to put a $1.5 million aside for the architectural design and development of the process. And we can certainly get that going and in the next year. And then, just for your information.
Okay. Thank you, City Manager. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Matthews. And Assistant City Manager Mears. Okay, so we need a motion for that? Or, I'm sorry, pardon me, City Manager, did we need a motion for that, or did you need to explore something with the city attorney?
Well,
I think we can.
I'm going to check with the city attorney to see if, if in her legal opinion, we're limited as to where we can put the money, that 11.6. But we know that we can use it for capital projects. Now, what I need from you all is, I need to see 4 people say, let's remove the earmark, and then we'll change the proposed budget for next week.
Okay, well, I'd like to enter a motion to remove the earmark from the remaining funds that were allocated or borrowed for the ice arena.
We're going to have to save that to the actual budget adoption, because that's a question.
I would second that.
Well, all I just need to see 4 people who want me to do it. I don't really need a formal vote. But I know Harrison, Gardner, Mayor. Is there a 4th? No, not a 5th.
Is there?
I'm right here.
So, Madam, what is your consensus on this?
Yeah, I'll support it.
Oh, that's 4. All right, then.
I heard the Mayor Pro Tem.
And the Mayor Pro Tem, your consensus?
Yep.
All right. Okay, that's 5-2. What we'll do is, as we prepare for next week in the adoption, we'll make that changes in the proposed budget for you all to approve.
Thank you, City Manager.
And just to make sure that the public is aware, we're not considering, we are continuing moving forward with the ice arena.
Yes, we have in this budget $1 million+ for the architectural design and development of the ice rink project in the vicinity of the Bowie Golf Course. And so, once that's approved, we'll go through we'll get 292 or whoever we choose and get that process going, so that a year plus from now, we'll be in a position to bid that project.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that wraps everything up for the evening. Is that correct, City Manager?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I think you all have worked really hard tonight. Proud of you.
I'd like to just take a quick moment and say thank you to all of my colleagues on the council for working through this. It's been quite an arduous task, so to speak. I'd like to say thank you again to all of our city staff. Mr. Matthews, I know you're talking a little bit there, but when it comes down to the dollars and cents, we do appreciate the detail that you give us to work with. City Manager, Assistant City Manager, and all of those who have presented this evening. Again, thank you, and to the citizens, thank you. And again, to my esteemed colleagues, thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
And I think we're done for the night.
Yes, sir.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Good night.